Let's be honest, we all love beautiful garden tours and garden makeover time lapses. Who doesn't like them? But the problem with garden time lapses is that they make a huge effort done in a long time look like some kind of a magic happening by itself. Maybe it's about the pace of these videos and happy music in the background. I don't know. But it really looks like it's quick and easy. Same with garden tour videos. We usually see beautiful results, but don't see the hard work that has been done and is being done behind that. And it somehow leads us to a dangerous belief that gardening is easy. Don't get me wrong, gardening is joyful, but easy? I wouldn't say so. So today I'm going to take you on an unusual garden tour. I'm going to show you the harsh truth. My name is Tanya and I'm a professional gardener, but it's only recently that I became an owner of a normal sized garden. Before that, I was doing gardens for my clients, but my own gardens were the size of a balcony or townhouse front yard. And finally, here it is, dream come true. But as they say, careful what you wish. I must tell a story of this garden because it actually has a story and it's quite long and quite interesting. It all began 80 years ago, after World War II, and the main focus of every garden in Finland back then was to grow food. Well, I guess not only in Finland. And there was enormous demand for fruit trees, berries, vegetable seeds, but especially fruit trees, not only because they produced fruits, but because blossoming fruit trees bring a sense of rebirth, revival. We are currently doing renovation of the house that is even older than the garden. And as always with renovating, there are interesting finds. And here's what I found. The cover of an old garden journal from 1946. As you can see, there are blossoming fruit trees and they say about importance of planting of fruit trees in Finland after the war. The first official owner of this garden was a schoolboy back then, but I suppose he helped his parents with planting these fruit trees. Those are apple trees, actually. Later, he became a vivid gardener, and the most critical things that this garden has, like structure, fruit trees, large trees, hedges, it all was done by him. This garden actually received a prize as the best Finnish garden of the year once, but unfortunately I couldn't find any information which year it was, and neither I could find any pictures of garden back then because it was pre-internet era. But as you look at these trees, if you understand something in pruning of a fruit tree, you can see that once they were really well pruned, skillfully, knowingly, but time takes its toll. As the first owner died, the property was sold to a next owner, and she was a busy mom, and she loved perennials and beautiful romantic garden decorations, but maintenance probably not so much. She brought many perennials with her and planted some decorative shrubs, but at the same time she cut some big trees that were there before her. And she built this beautiful greenhouse. But at some point she had to move to another city and the garden and the house became neglected for a while. And that's where problem began. You would be surprised how quickly garden actually decays without maintenance. And speaking of this beautiful greenhouse, vandals sneaked in and broke some glass. And unfortunately, I couldn't find a replacement of the right size and shape, so I had to go with polycarb. So now it's partly glass and partly polycarb, which is weird. The spruce hatch was planted by a first owner, and once it was trimmed really well, but with time and as this garden was neglected, it overgrew terribly, and it was actually the first thing I had to trim when I moved in because it really looked terrible. And it took me five full days, and I have special garden tools and experience. And guess what it would be like for a newbie? This hatch is around 80 meters long and 2 to 3 meters high. And at some parts, this is the best part actually, and at some parts it began to thin out, unfortunately. So this is actually the pile of what I trimmed of a spruce hedge, and it's really only a beginning of the process. It needs regular trimming, and then again trimming, and then again trimming. And those are compost piles, and I actually don't know what's really in there, and it's a huge work that is ahead of me because I would need to dig out everything and see what's really in there and if it's a really good compost or not. So huge work to be done. And here I have about 20 meters of raspberry, and yes, this also needed to be trimmed really heavily because it looked like a forest, like a deep forest. There are actually were some willows, beautiful willows that grew on a riverbank. I have my own riverbank. That's amazing. So there were some willows, and previous second owner cut them off. For some reason, I guess they became too old and dangerous because willow has a really short lifespan. So she cut them off, but never bothered to take away the remains. And some are still lying on the riverbank, and some were here right in the middle of this raspberry patch. So I had to move them out. Maybe you can see them in the background. They are still there, and I have to decide what to do with them. I guess I will fill some of my raised beds that I'm planning to make. I actually already made some raised beds, but this is temporary because yes, I need a vegetable garden because that was my dream. I couldn't have a proper vegetable garden in my previous gardens because they were really small. But in my plans, there is a kitchen garden, more structured, more beautiful than this. This is temporary. And this terrible thing you see right now in this video, those were some gooseberry bushes, but unfortunately, I couldn't save them because they all were lying on the ground covered with weeds terribly. And the only one I'm planning to save is this one because there are some new growth. By the way, I will show you. This is how you define a new growth on a gooseberry. It's really, really light. You can see this light gray twig. And the older it gets, the darker it gets. And if you see something like this is really, really old. So when you prune your gooseberry, look for this young, beautiful, light gray growth. And here we have perennial beds. there were two huge perennial beds, but perennials, they are beautiful and they bring, I would say, a fragility to a garden, some movement, some seasonal change, but they first thing to decay when the garden becomes neglected. And what happened here was that some perennials spread it uncontrollably and some eventually died. Unfortunately, this one couldn't be saved, in my opinion, and I actually plan to make my kitchen garden here, right at this place behind my back. But it's a long process, and it's not gonna happen in nearest 2 years, maybe even more, because it really needs it really needs some good planning. And this perennial bed is in better condition, and also it also have some weeds in it, but it really looks better than another one. So this one is going to remain here in the garden, and I already cleaned it a bit, but not all of it. It's still lots of work to be done. And as I said before, these apple trees, they are quite old and they were beautifully pruned once. And then I guess for 10 years or so, they weren't pruned at all. So it's really hard to get back to the shape they had before. But I'm trying. It's the second year when I've been pruning them, and hopefully, even though they are really old, and of course, fruit trees also have their productive lifespan, and for apples, it is believed to be 50 years, and those apples are older, but they're still producing, and apples are really good. They are tasty, maybe small, but who cares if they are tasty? So I actually really sensitive to cutting old trees because I believe they have their story and they have a long life behind them. So we should treat them carefully. It's not only it's just not about just production. It's about it's about a feeling and it's about the sense that they bring to a garden. They bloom beautifully. They bring shade and they bring structure. So if you have an old fruit tree, think twice before you decide to cut it off because you actually can use it just as a tree. Here is a younger apple tree, and I believe the first owner planted it not long before his death because it was never pruned. It grew as it grew. It was really bushy, so well, I had to take off some huge part of it this spring, and this is just the beginning of the process. Let's see what will come out of it. And I don't know if you see there is some damage from either deers or hares. We have lots of deers and hares here, and that's a problem. And I'm still thinking how to protect my vegetable garden from them. Maybe, well, I should come with some decision anyway. And front side of this garden has a lilac hedge, and it was terribly overgrown. And this is just a third part, or maybe even fourth part of what I pruned off. and I really don't know what to do with this pile of wood because of course I can shred it in a garden shredder, but it will take weeks, if not months, to shred everything that I have right now in the garden, so probably I would treat it as a waste. I'm a fan of organic gardening, and I think if you can use something in a garden, you should use it. And the wood is an organic material, organic thing. It good, it is good as a mulch, and you can use it in a Nordic bed, but not this amount. This amount is terrible. And this is another pile of trimmed wood behind my back that I would probably keep because it has some really large trunks and some nice twigs that can be chopped and used as a mulch. But still, you can see the size of it. Huge amount of work still waiting for me. And this is every Finnish person dream came true. The own path to water. What is also good about it is I can use this water for watering my garden, so I will never have to pay for it. This is the end of the tour of my garden tour for today, and hopefully you didn't click off earlier. And thank you for watching this video. And if you have similar problems or maybe different problems, but still you have questions about garden maintenance, about planting a garden, leave all that in the comments. I will be happy to answer them. And also you can leave a comment, what would you like to see about my garden, how it grows, things that I am planning to build in this garden, my own garden maintenance, or maybe how it looks later in spring and in summer. Leave all that in the comments and hit the like button to help this video to spread to more people, because I know that many people are interested not only in beautiful and edited picture of gardens, but the real truth around them. Because gardens are not all roses. There are thorns as well. So it is what it is. And I wish you all happy gardening. See you on my channel again.